Thank you. Howdy. No better way to start the Jimbo Fisher radio show because overtime on Saturday was Aggie time, defeating then 13th ranked and then undefeated Kentucky. And as I said, undefeated no longer. We thank you for being here at Rudy's 504 Harvey Road, along with the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher. Howdy, Coach.
Howdy, how we doing?
Oh, that was fun on Saturday. That was a blast. Tony, thank you for playing that to get us started. Thanks for joining us here along the Aggie Radio Network, as well as in TuneIn, Facebook Live, and Twitter Live. That was, as I said, overtime was Aggie time. That was fun. I'm going to guess you didn't want to go there if you didn't have to. It would have been nice. Ooh, that was an exciting night at Kyle
It
Field.
was, and we shouldn't have been there. We had plenty of opportunities, but that's when you play a team that's undefeated. They have they've won some games for a reason. They're confident. They're playing well. It was a big challenge for us. Kids overcame a lot of different things. Played extremely well on defense. Shut down the run, limited the passing game. Special teams, our coverage teams, and return teams did a great job. And then offense, we moved the football, just didn't finish some drives. On a long field a lot of times. That was a field position game, except for a few times we started in good field position. Basically, you're back inside your 20 or 25 every time and would create big plays and had 14 big plays in the game between runs and 12-yard runs, 15-yard passes. We just didn't finish drives, but we'll work on that and get better. But the way the kids, they were very resilient in how they competed, and it was a heck of a football game, physical football game.
You have Kentucky picking up the fumble, tying the game, and I would think on their sideline the thought is, it's a magic season. It's going to continue.
Yep.
But the Aggies absolutely stiffened at that point and didn't let them drag them down.
It did. We got to the overtime, and then they had a third and I believe two, and then that sack was critical. We got the sack, and the quarterback held the football. They played man, we covered it, and instead of throwing it away, we were able to get to him before we could do that, and then that was the inches you needed. We say you fight for inches all the time, and those are literally inches because the ball hit the crossbar.
Yeah.
If it hits another 2 inches on top of it, it probably bounces over. And then we were able to be physical and really run the football when we had to do it, and our kids did a great job.
And that last play that you just heard, the Travion Williams touchdown, Cullen Gillespie with the block from the fullback, your offensive line blocks, your tight end blocks, everything worked in concert, didn't it, beautifully?
They did. We put a hat to a hat, got guys there, and then the safety come up, and he tried to strip the ball as he tackled him. When he did, he didn't get a good lick on him. Travion ran through it and got in the end zone. It was a great job.
Yeah, he was really hungry as they came in 1-2. We were talking about that last week, 1-2, and Travion, you keep talking about the complete back coming out of the backfield and catching the football, running the football. So valuable to this team, isn't he?
They are. Well, those guys early we were throwing it during the year in some of the big games. Now we're being able to run it, and we're able to – people take receivers away and take your tight ends away. You got to use your backs. Kellen's making a great job of making decisions. If you look at our ball distribution from the X receiver to the slot to the Z to the tight ends to the backs, everybody's catching balls. You can't just zero in on one guy, and we're doing a good job in that regard.
And so when you had Travion and Jay-Sean in at the same time, that's two more receivers that you get to choose from, right?
They both got great hands out of the backfield, very athletic, and can catch the ball, so they did a really good job.
He is Jimbo Fisher. He's the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. This is the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit. We want to remind you that Aggie football is brought to you by Bud Light, proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics, reminding you to enjoy responsibly. Much more to come about the win on Saturday. We'll preview this Saturday afternoon's game against South Carolina when we continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit. We are live at Rudy's 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Stay with us. This is Aggie football from Learfield. Mon to Courtney Davis tied the game at 7. The Aggies would go on to the overtime victory over Kentucky on Saturday, 20-14. Thanks for staying with us. This is the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit, and we are live here at Rudy's 504 Harvey Road in College Station. AT&T is a proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. More for your thing. That's our thing. We have a check-in on Facebook from Seoul, South Korea. And Coach Fisher, we have a check-in from Brian Kennedy. Says Gig'em from Clarksburg, West Virginia.
Yeah, I know Brian.
Do you really?
Oh yeah. He's
Excellent.
actually a cousin. He's one of my cousins.
That's outstanding. I love the way they are checking in. Coach, you get that win over Kentucky. Some of the numbers that stand out at me. Kentucky did not have a snap until overtime, and that's only because they put the ball on the 25 across the 50. 12 possessions, 10 punts, the field goal attempt, and the touchdown. And the time of possession for this Aggie team, again, 35 minutes to 25 minutes. Time of possession can become very critical in a game,
It is,
can
and
it?
down in distance and converting third downs, which we did. Again, got to convert more points. When you do that and then convert points, you really put pressure on people. But see, that's what you got to play to your team. How do you have to win the game? It's people say, well, you want to go fast, you want to go no huddle, you want to score points. You do want to score points, but there's still controlling the tempo of the game. Our defense is winning well, or we were punting the ball, we had field position. Now, again, we should have scored 3 to 4 more, had opportunities in the red zone 3 to 4 more times, in my opinion. We had good drives going, we should have finished. And it was all different reasons they happened. But at the same time, you're controlling tempo of the game. You're keeping your defense off the field. You're limiting the other team. And then when you do give it back to them, you're giving it back to them backed up and field position things, and playing to each other. That's what everybody talks about. It's not offense, it's not defense, it's special teams. It's how all three intertwine to play as one team, and I think that's very important, and I think we're learning to do that right now.
In regulation, Kentucky had run 47 plays. 50 when you count overtime.
Yeah.
That's amazing to be in the 40s in this day and age.
When you're getting 3 and outs and you're not converting on third down, and we had multiple 7, 10, 9 play drives, and, very methodical, so you're eating clock, and there's not as many opportunities.
Your defense, 6 more sacks. This one, everybody on that defensive line, again, with a sack, so active. We had talked before that sometimes that defensive line getting the penetration and the sacks helps your secondary, and we saw the opposite, did we not? We saw the secondary being able and covering so well that it helped your defensive line, didn't it?
They all go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. It starts with the guys up front. The guys that put their hand in the dirt, and we have very good players up front. Our guys up front can put their hand in the dirt. They can be very disruptive. They're strong, they're physical, they're athletic. And then, it helps the linebackers, which are playing very well. Played probably their best game as far as taking air out of the ball, as far as on runs and squeezing down. We tackled in space. Donovan was unbelievable tackling in space, and what he did, and we covered well. And it was just a complete game, and we always were ahead of the sticks. We weren't behind the sticks very often, so the guys did a great job.
You talked about earlier in the season about the open field tackles and the tackling. And if Dono doesn't make those tackles, Jimbo, it's a completely different story for Kentucky's offense, isn't it?
No doubt. I mean, remember 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were wondering we can't tackle in space. Everybody was saying we can't do this, we can't do that. Things are never as good as they seem. They're never as bad as they seem. They're usually in between somewhere. And you just got to manage those situations and keep coaching, look, and find where your eyes go. Find another step here. Find another thing here. Get more experience in the defense. Recognize things quicker, and you play faster. And our guys are doing a good job. They're getting better and better.
This team is getting an identity, obviously, on defense about being able to stop the run. You hold Benny Snell to 60. He's a terrific running back, but this defense was up to the challenge. And you talked about you can't let Terry Wilson get out in space, and you've got to contain him. Both those things happened.
Well, those philosophically is what we believe, and that's what I believe as a head coach. You got to be able to run the football on offense. You got to be able to stop the run on defense. You're going to create big plays, and you're going to throw it. And I like to throw it and be as explosive as anybody. But those are 2 things that we set as our goals and our standards of physicality and the way good football is played. And we're doing that. Our kids are buying into it. Coach Elko and the defensive coaches are doing a tremendous job. We're being able to run the football, as I say. 5, I think, is leading the league in rushing.
Yes.
He's making plays. Even Corbin, when he's getting in, having runs. And Kellen's legs. really help. So being able to control the clock in that way and be physical is critical, and we're being able to do that.
How much happier are you having Mike Elko on your sideline and not on the other sideline and going against him?
That's why we hired him. You go out and get guys that you know are good coaches, and he works. Tell you, Mike's a true football guy. What I mean by that is he lives, eats, and breathes it, and he works his tail off.
It showed on Saturday in the 20-14 overtime win over Kentucky. Still more Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit to come. We want to remind you, thank our servicemen and women by purchasing seats for them to attend the Texas A&M football game when the Aggies take on UAB on November 17th at Kyle Field. You can donate $20 military appreciation tickets today for active duty, reserves, and retired military personnel. They can request free tickets to that game on November 17th. Visit 12thman.com/military and donate $20 Aggie football military appreciation tickets today. We will come back to Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road, as we will continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. This is Aggie football from Learfield. It's the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Kids, you can be the future of the 12th man. Join the Junior Aggie Club today. Members of the official Kids Club of Texas A&M Athletics are 12 years of age and younger. Join the Junior Aggie Club today. Receive free admission to Aggie athletic events throughout the year, plus exclusive access and experiences. Group, sibling, and 12th Man Foundation discounts are available. Visit junioraggieclub.com and join today. Thanks for staying with us along the Aggie Radio Network. Along with Jimbo Fisher, I'm Andrew Monaco. Our question, as it does every week, comes from Ian Curtis. Ian always has good questions. Coach, how do you keep media attention from negatively affecting your team's play?
Well, you just remind them, and they understand the core values of what you believe and what you're going to say, and their comments and what they say is what we believe, and you can't, as I say, buy into everything. You got to remember why you have success, remind them why you have success, and get them to understand it. And right now our kids are doing that. You feel good about yourself, you feel confident, but you understand you're doing that because you're putting in the work. And our kids are, doing a good job of grasping that.
In the years that you have been a coach, obviously there's more social media now, but there was always media. There was always that attention. That's something that as a coach, you've always had to be mindful of, haven't you?
You do, but social media today is
a different game.
It is. And so many kids today, unfortunately, their whole demeanor of how they feel about themselves is what social media says about them. And it's sad. I mean, you see it. They how many hits, how many likes do I have? What do people like what I'm doing? Do they like this? Do they like that? If you know you're doing, I mean, it's just a different day and age, and it is so intertwined in their thought process and their own self-worth.
Right.
I mean, kids and their own self-worth worry. I mean, it's all based off what people say.
Yeah.
And the people don't, as I tell them, don't even know you, don't know anything about you, don't know anything, and you base your whole demeanor and your feelings based off of that. And it's a sad time. I mean, social media has its great graces, but there's some very, very negative ones. And I think that's why you have so many, as I say, there's different sociological problems that are going on with kids today that deal with 100 times things that we didn't, because we never knew what people said or didn't care. You couldn't have the access. And it's caused a different, you worry about kids that have depression, they have a lot of issues mentally from dealing with all this stuff. It all goes back to social media.
I've always said this about fans, that at times the superficial ones are rooting for laundry. They don't know who the person is inside that uniform. When that's all you know as a fan, you can take that shot, but not knowing how it affects
Well,
that
it is,
play.
but listen, that's their right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the world we live in. That's your freedom of being an American, your freedom of speech and the thing. But kids just can't, you don't need to read it and buy into it. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that's amazing with it. But, that dealing with the media today as far as that goes, and it's not, media today is different. And I don't mean this because it's not because the people are different, but because our world is different. Mm-hmm. It's about likes. It's about getting the story out first. It's how many quick hits you get. You don't have the guys that dig in and do a week-long report on a player and get the actual facts and what matters and how things go. And those days are gone. It's just the world we live in. I mean, it's just now it's how quick can I get the story out? How quick can I get a hit? And do I get a hit on my website? And that's kind of the game you're into. So you got to understand that.
So when you see a young kid who matures from when you bring him in at 18 to 22, that has got to be so heartwarming for you because you're affecting him for the rest of his life.
Yeah, you're trying to, and you get him to understand that worth. But I'm going to tell you what, that thing right there is you talk about addicting now. Yeah. And it is. It's been proven in the psychological disposition of how they do it, and it's why they do it, and it's how they get you to buy iPhone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and keep on going. They change them every second, and you got to have the new technology, and you got to have the new this, and you got to have the new that, and it's just the way it is.
I didn't mean to take this off. I promise we're going to talk football when we come back.
No,
okay?
But you are talking football.
Yeah,
you don't understand. Point. Most of our time, people, that's what I say, the things you put in place with donations and things and having kids how to deal with all the situations, the ball part's easy. That's not hard. This is a part of that people don't realize that you spend a lot of time how to deal with it, how to handle it, how to speak to it, how to deal with the comments that are coming back. I mean, all those things, we have things set up and programs set up to deal with this because this deals with the kid's psychological disposition to be able to compete and function in the world and function as a player, a student, and in life in general. You are talking football. That's the thing that people think. You aren't. This is not a separated thing. This is as much a part of that as going to the meeting and learning X and O's.
Do athletes then have a better chance because there's a support group and you're able obviously you're not going to wean.
We're trying to.
Gotcha.
We try to and understand how to deal with it, and it's part of the world you're going to have to deal with, especially when you become a sports figure because people love sports, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so they're going to know everything about you. They're going to say they're going to have an opinion about you. They're going to do this about you as a coach. And, I mean, everybody can coach better than you. Everybody can play better than you. Everybody can do it. That's just the world we live in. And is that guy terrible? I mean, it's just their frustration. They're right. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing. You just got to know how to take it and deal with it and handle it. And that's part of – and when you're 18 to 20, 22, that's a little different than when you get older and understand that. Right. That's all part of because you want to be accepted. And you want people to like you. You want people to be successful. But, it just doesn't work that way.
You got it. That is Jimbo Fisher, head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. The presenting sponsor of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show is Capital Farm Credit. Capital Farm Credit, together we're better. We'll come back to Rudy's here, 504 Harvey Road, and continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit. Stay with us. Aggie football is from Learfield. It would be a 43-yard punt return for Rashad Paul, and the Aggies were in business against Kentucky. Thanks for staying with us. Jimbo Fisher Radio Show rolls on, presented by Capital Farm Credit, live here at Rudy's. Coach and I get the opportunity to talk prior to Saturday's game. Invites me into his office, and we talk a little bit. And I love what you said about special teams, because I hadn't thought about it. The returns of Rashad Paul, not just the 43-yarder, but so key with the field position and how the punt is from the opposing punter. All that field position, it becomes so critical in a game.
Especially in a game like that where you're starting. It's hard, unless you hit big plays, to have 80, 85, 90-yard drives. That's a difficult thing, because usually there's a penalty, in which we had a couple guys jump off sides. You get a bad play. It's hard to sustain that. And even though their punter was hitting great punts, we would get he averaged 16 or 18 on the night. Mm-hmm. He'd get an 8-yard return, a 10-yard return, a 12-yard return. Well, instead of starting at our 12 or 14, we're starting at the 25. That's huge. And when we were hitting those big punts, we were tackling them, which is very hard to do, because you can out-kick your coverage where a guy gets space. And that's what they were doing, but we were able to get that 10 or 12 yards back We were tackling those guys. So you constantly gain 10 yards. And you don't, those are small things, but when you look at the starting field position and things that go on, and part of that is, too, when you're in a tight game, how you call plays, sometimes if you don't have a quarterback who's very experienced or a great thrower, you limit yourself sometimes on how they threw, and they didn't throw the ball much when they were backed up, and it's probably because they were a running team. So then they even become more one-dimensional, which allows you to play the run. So all those things enhance into how your defense plays because you're winning that field position battle and keeping guys backed up because it goes into play calling and everything else that happens.
And you talk about with Braden Mann, the way he punts it, he allows the coverage. How about Cully getting David Bouvier, who's a very good punt returner? He tied up Kentucky very deep in their own.
We did that. We covered well, and not just him, all of our guys. We're getting 3 and 4 and 5 guys down there and getting that spread and getting that web around them, and guys are getting them on the ground. We're doing a good job of that, and they're taking pride in it, and it's making a huge difference.
And you have starters on the special teams as
well.
Heck
yeah. You put your here's what I'll say. Why wouldn't you want your best players in the greatest space? That's where the most big plays are made. And here's the other thing. If you're not a first-round draft pick, and you dream of playing in the NFL, and you can't play special teams, guess what? You're not going to play. Because if you're not one of the top 2 or 3 guys at your position on their team, usually you have 3 wideouts. The fourth, they keep 5. The 4th and 5th best wideouts aren't the best wideouts they had in camp. They're the best wideouts that can play special teams. The backup linebackers, the backup running backs, the backup tight ends, all those guys, if you can't supply yourself as a special teams player in the NFL, you have no chance. Unless you're a first-round draft pick and they're not putting you on special teams, you have to learn to do that. So I think to enhance those guys' chances of making it, you keep your best guys on. And then we have plenty of our young guys or walk-ons or different people that, like Gilly did, it worked his way into that, right. And we'll do that. But listen, that's not just a place to take a play off. You have to win those field position battles, and it enhances those guys' chance of making the NFL.
Would you also continue something that you mentioned on Monday? You were talking about how special teams, if there's been a growth and maybe the biggest change in football, it's punters and place kickers. They've grown exponentially.
The ability to kick the football today is amazing. I mean, look the other day, Graham Gano, who's a guy that I actually coached at Florida State, he hits a 63-yarder to win a game. I mean, guy from Missouri the other day against South Carolina, because South Carolina came back and scored again, but with a minute to go, hit a 57-yarder to win a game. In college. And that's off the ground. Now, back in the day,
you had a tee.
You had a tee. You don't understand, that's a huge difference in how you kick. The punters, look at what Braden's doing. Look how the punter from Arkansas was hitting boom ball. I mean, hanging at 4.6, 4.7, 4.8. And unlike the NFL, in the NFL, you can't leave except for the 2 gunners until the ball's kicked. In college ball, you can run down before the ball's kicked. So when a guy's kicking it that far and that high, it's making it impossible to return it. You really have to do a great job blocking to give him enough space. That's where I was proud of our guys to be able to create those returns. And the kickoffs, like those guys don't want you to kick it, they just kick it out of the end zone. Right. I mean, back in the day, to have guys that consistently kicked it out of the end zone, there was 1 or 2 guys. Now, everybody, it's like in Major League Baseball. Everybody's got somebody that throws 100. I mean, think about in baseball. They play them every other inning in 96, 98, 99. Where are these guys coming from? And they're kicking it just like they're throwing it that way. And it's a big difference in football today.
Jimbo, guys who throw 93 are throwing pus now.
Oh, yeah. But they're still, hey, I know Kershaw and them guys are 92. They're still the best pitchers now.
He's got a bend in that thing, right?
Yeah, Greg Maddux and all those guys.
You also made a point about the kickoffs where it used to be you could kick high and shorter and right around the 1 and make them run out. The fair catch has changed a lot, hasn't it?
It has. We had kickers that could kick it out, and I never let them because we had very good athletic people when I was at Florida State, and we do here on our kickoff team. So you didn't want your guy to kick it out of the end zone. We tried to get him to hang it right on the 1 or 2 yard line with over a 4-1 hang. When you did that, and they couldn't down it because it wasn't in the end zone, probably 85% of the time we tackled the guys inside the 20. So instead of giving the ball on the 25, we would get on the 16, 18. That's still 8, 9 yards at a time that you're stealing field position. Now it doesn't matter whether you kick it out or if they don't want to return it, they can fair catch it. You still get it at the 25. So that's changed the rules of football. And so, you might, if you're going to do that, you can kick it out now. But, we used to not let that happen. And, maybe in time we'll go back if we see teams that want to run it. But, having Braden, which is critical, if you don't want a guy to return it, he hits it good. At least you don't have to deal with that part of the game.
Right, and there's a couple more
dynamic. Those little nuances, and people don't think we're just making it fair. Well, that changes. That's a big philosophical change on how you do something.
And they've got more returners for South Carolina. We will get towards the Gamecocks as we continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. Aggie football is AT&T is a proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics and Aggie football. AT&T, more for your thing. That is our thing. We'll continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit. We'll come back to Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Stay with us. Aggie football from Learfield. The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit rolls on from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road. Thanks for staying with us. We want you to stand with the 12th man in support of Texas A&M football. Experience Kyle Field with a 3-game flex pack, including $30 concessions for the remaining 3 home games against Ole Miss, UAB, and LSU. Group discounts for 12 or more people and single game tickets are also available by today at 12thman.com/football tickets or call 888-99-AGGIE. That's 12thman.com/football tickets or 888-99-AGGIE to buy your Aggie football tickets today. A reminder that on Saturday we will come to you from Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia, South Carolina. The Aggies and the Gamecocks, the 22nd ranked Aggies and the Gamecocks. We will be with you 1:30 with our pregame show. 2:30 with the kickoff between the Aggies and the Gamecocks along the Aggie Radio Network as well as on TuneIn. And you can catch us, Dave Elmendorf, Will Johnson, and I, from South Carolina. Visit 12thman.com/maroon contest and register for your chance to hang out on Kyle Field with the Yell leaders at the next home game. Winners get photo ops, game tickets, pregame hospitality, and the chance to get a pregame tour of Kyle Field. Register today at 12thman.com/maroon contest. We'll talk Aggies and Gamecocks when we return to the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We are live at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road. Stay with us. This is Aggie football from Learfield. The 5th touchdown of the year for Aggie tight end Jace Sternberger. Aggies the 20-14 overtime win over Kentucky last week. We continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. Here at Rudy's, football and barbecue lovers know the perfect brisket needs the right wood. Rudy's smokes all their meats using their delicious signature rubs in 100% oak-fired pits. Get your real Texas barbecue fix today at Rudy's or on the web at rudys.com. The other thing that they have here at Rudy's, to everyone who is here, did not realize this till I was just told, cake. Why? Happy birthday, Coach.
Oh, wow.
Belated.
Thank you. I've eaten more junk in the last day and a half than I have in the last 6 months. More cake or cookies, or I don't want to. People put them, so I'll eat one, and it's kind of turned into a day and a half. And I'm gonna tell you what, it's killing me.
And you're not a junk eater.
No,
you don't
I'm not.
eat junk food.
No, I don't. I've been eating well in them last day and a half.
You got serenaded by the team, huh?
Yeah.
How did that sound?
They actually weren't bad. Surprised me. That was probably our best practice of the year. They were Tuesday's practice was unbelievable. I might make them sing for every practice.
You always talk about it's got to be you always want that solid week of practice going into Saturday. And I joked with you this afternoon, understatement. You got your hands full Saturday against South Carolina, don't you?
Oh yeah, this is a really good team. They had a great win this past weekend. I battled them back what they did, and they had rain, they had delays, they had all kind of things, and then were scored upon with less than about a minute to go, and then drove back down with a backup quarterback and won the game. And did a great job. So, Will's a great coach. I've known him a little time. We're friends, but I have great respect for him. They'll be well prepared. They're tough. They're physical. Defensively, very multiple. Good front. Linebackers active. Secondary guys. Skill guys on offense. Receivers, Debo, we know, can go. Quarterbacks can throw it. Bentley can throw it. Other guys, 13 can run. The big 6'4", 220 kid can run. They can run the football. They're big up front. Special teams punter is a really good player.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got it across the board, and they're playing at their place, and that's a very, very difficult place to play.
It is a tough place, isn't it?
I've been there, back in the 90s, even all the way back in those days. And South Carolina was a team that, had limited success early in their career. They was up and down. But that place was always sold out.
Yeah.
Always sold out. Now they're winning and having great seasons and doing what they're doing, man. It's making it tough, and it's going to be a heck of a game. How
much fun was that staff at LSU with Nick and Will Muschamp was part of that? You had some great. You had a lot of fun, didn't you?
We did. Will Muschamp was on that staff. Derek Dooley was on that staff.
That's right.
Kirby Smart was on that staff. Myself. You go back. Bo Pelini took Will's place when Les came. I mean, we had guys all over the place, and then it was a great staff. Stacey Searles, who's at Miami. I mean, it was just great staff, great people, and a bunch of young coaches. And you knew all those guys were going to be successful because they worked at it and were very good at it, and great personalities.
Obviously you got to talk and live football, but watching, I would imagine watching them grow as coaches, but also getting to know their families and seeing them grow has to be special.
Oh, it is. I remember all those. Everybody's kids are growing up or just born like our kids' age. And Will's kids are similar to mine in ages, and they were all born in Baton Rouge. They were all born there together.
Yeah. So I know they've gone through different quarterbacks, whether it's been Bentley or Scarnecchia, but does it? One, how do you prepare, and can it really be that different, or do you prepare against a system?
You play the same, and they're going to play their system. And one guy may feature a throw or two different than the other, but it's not that drastic of a change, and we're probably more similar than they are different. One just played a lot more than the other one.
Right. He got his first start, did Scarnecchia last week, and he gets the win. And as you mentioned, wins like that are confidence builders, and that's one more thing that you have to face.
Oh, it is. I mean, and being able to come back like they did over there, that's a huge boost for them.
That will be on Saturday. 2:30 is the kick. 1:30 for our pregame along the Aggie Radio Network. We will continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We're at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. We will continue. This is Aggie football from Learfield. We want you to tune into Fox Sports Southwest every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. to catch the pulse and stay up to date with Texas A&M football. As we continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, it's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We are at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road. Coach, listening to you on Monday, and last week you were prizing the veterans in for Kentucky, the 4th and 5th year. Words that came up Monday with your media availability: consistency and confidence. Those are two important things for a team to win, aren't they?
Oh, they are. You have to believe in what you're doing, but you have to play with great consistency, and you can't get bored, and you got to do things right over and over and over and over again, because football's a game of repetition, and who can do it right the most usually wins, and that's a big part of it, and hopefully we're growing in that direction.
Along the lines of don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly right. Don't get bored. Don't get bored doing the right things, and don't think, okay, I did that for a while. Well, I got to change something. No, just keep doing it over and over and over.
Right, and with that comes that confidence. I heard Otaro Alaka talking this week. The defense, he says, we're playing with more confidence than we've ever had. I think it comes from the success that you have, because they bought into Coach Elko, and they bought into you. Know what I mean?
Popper said it's confidence come first and success come first. Yes. I mean, but generally you have to have success, but you got to have the confidence to get through it. And there's a scared times, like anything you do. Can I really do it? Am I as good as this can happen? Can this? Just trust the process. That's where you got to trust the process. Mm-hmm. Trust your coaching. And then at the end of the day, the hardest thing in the world to trust, you know what it is? Yourself.
Gotcha.
Because you can't blame nobody else. You can't blame nobody, because every time you trust somebody else, it was his fault. When you trust yourself, listen, there's nobody behind you.
Yeah.
And when you learn to do that, and you say there's a point that comes, they have to do that. And all of a sudden, this can happen, can't happen. Then you start to have that confidence, and you start to grow, and then you start to become the player you can become.
Tyrell Dodson told me earlier this season, he said, this game will never lie to you. So if something's going wrong, it won't lie. But if it's going well, it also won't lie, correct?
Football reveals the truth. There's no easy way. I mean, you get out of it what you put in it, and when you do things right, you get good results. When you do things wrong, you don't get good results. And sometimes the scary part is, and which will happen every now and then, you won't do it right, but you'll get a good result. And that's the most dangerous thing that can happen. You got to make sure you're getting the results for the right reasons. And then even when they're wrong, say, all right, I'll take that, but I got a lot of work to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And our kids have done that. That's happened a couple times, but we're learning to move through that.
We have one more segment of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit. We will come back to Rudy's, continue with the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. That is how the Aggies opened up the overtime against Kentucky. And that other voice you hear is my partner, Dave Elmendorf. I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying working with Dave. Just an absolute blast. He gave me permission, so I can do whatever I want. We'll be with you at 1:30 on Saturday and 2:30 for the kick between the Aggies and the Gamecocks, 22nd ranked. Texas Aggies. Along with Jimbo Fisher, I'm Andrew Monaco. Final segment of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit here at Rudy's. I wanted to get one more thing from you that you mentioned on Monday. This is the time of year, all the work that you were doing in August on camp and all the work that these players were doing in the summer, this is now going to start to pay off. But you were talking about how everything is being tracked, and the physicality and all that, and the numbers you were talking about actually getting better, are they not?
They are, and that's what you should do. You should keep peaking the way we practice. And a lot of people take a day off on Monday or so. We don't. We go in shells and get a little bit extra. And I think the way the body trains and how we have to do it, it allows. And we still lift really hard, as much as we possibly can during the season to gain strength. And it's not a time you take off. And our kids are getting bigger and stronger, and I think that's how you had to keep peaking and pushing away to the end of the season.
I thought against Clemson looked tired at the end of the game. I thought against Kentucky they didn't want anything to do with overtime, but the Aggies looked fresh in that OT.
Our kids are conditioning, the way we practice and the longevity of how we practice and the physicality of how we practice are hopefully paying off.
I really think this is going to be scary when I say this, Coach. You're a -7 when it comes to turnover margin. When that changes, that's when we're going to see drives finish and all that, right?
Well,
great things to come.
It is going to drives finish, and you're going to have to be on shorter fields when the defense creates more turnovers. Even though we did still haven't getting the turnovers. So in turn, you're still playing on long fields, which is fine. But those turnovers will come.
Yeah. The other thing, Kellen Mond in the second half, is that a sign of him processing the way he's able to see things and understand as things go in the game? Because in the second half, he has been really, really good.
Well, and I think it's just of his grit, his fortitude, and good players understand how to raise their game as the game goes on, and you make adjustments, and you play the next play. That's also not letting one play, his mental toughness of if things don't go well, not letting it affect you in a different way. And like you say, it's not always – quarterbacks get too much glory and too much blame. There was a lot of stuff in our first drive. We didn't run a route one time on a pass. We jump off sides. We had 4 motion penalties, if you go back and think about it, in a game. Pre-snap penalties, those are ridiculous. You should never have those. And that all affects drives, but, he processes it and waits. And patience and waiting for his turns, not forcing the ball, not taking the chances, but when he has the chances, he's making them. So he's getting better and better.
I heard him say that, he wanted to get that fumble and make something happen on that play. Can you fault someone who's trying to it may not be the right decision, or does he just have to know
there's always fault, and you got to understand that. You got to understand when to make chances, when don't. In the terms, you got to secure the ball. He didn't do it on purpose. We know that.
Right.
But you got to understand what you did wrong, how you do it, and then process it, move on.
Even though I know what you're going to say, I'm still going to ask the question. What do you want to see on Saturday to come away with a win in Columbia?
Well, I want to see a team that's ready to play, is confident in playing, and is ready to compete for 60 minutes on the road and understand what it takes to win on the road in a hostile environment against a good football team. And we're going to have to be physical at the line of scrimmage, both sides. We're going to have to create big plays. We're going to have to stop big plays. Third down conversions, which we know we won that battle last week. The red zones where we got to finish on offense, but our defense did a good job when we were down there. When we were down there on offense, we're actually 2 out of 3. A couple times we didn't reach. We were right outside the red zone and finish drives, take care of the football, and win the turnover battle.
Last time you were on the road, I know it was neutral site, but it was Arkansas. You did have that fast start.
Yep.
To go with a fast start is that consistency, right? To keep that foot on the pedal.
Don't get bored and stay down. I mean, you got to have immediacy and starting fast. You got to have intensity throughout the game, and you got to play with great intelligence. And those are things that we got to continue to do.
You also have to be ready to get punched in the mouth by South Carolina because they want to make it difficult for you.
They
correct?
are. They're going to make their plays. You just got to play the next one.
Yeah, it's going to be good. As I always say, beat the hell out of South Carolina.
I'm for that. That's the plan.
Got it. Coach, thank you so much. The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show is presented by Capital Farm Credit. We come to you every week from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road. This Saturday, we will join you. 1:30 will be our pregame show. 2:30 will be the kick between the 22nd ranked Texas Aggies and the South Carolina Gamecocks. Join us along the Aggie Radio Network as well as on TuneIn. We love to have your company for that. Dave Elmendorf, Will Johnson, and I will be with you beginning, as we said, 1:30 for our pregame show and 2:30 the Aggies and the Gamecocks. Thanks so much for joining us. This has been the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit, live on location from Rudy's. We'll talk to you Saturday. So long, everybody. Thanks, and gig 'em.